Hi, welcome to this week's Fireside Chat. It's good to be with you digitally on recording on our YouTube channel. I'm glad you were able to find us. If there are those that you wish to invite to view the Fireside Chats each week, you know that we keep them up for about a month on the YouTube channel. So feel free to invite them, send them the link, whatever. If you find it helpful, that would be wonderful. I want to say a big thank you to Judy Zarubik, who's on the other side of this recording and making the technology look relatively easy, even though I know it's not, because I'm glad I'm not on her end. So thank you, Judy, for making this happen. Especially since there's so much going on in our lives, even though we're still concerned around the pandemic, we think about our wider spread family. I have been lucky enough to be blessed with a grandson who lives with his two moms, my daughter Melissa and her partner Allison in Ottawa. And one of my favorite times with him is bath time. However, bath time for a baby Bible character may not be as enjoyable as it is with my grandson. Speaking of babies, here's a thought. Here's a few puns for those of us who learned how to bake bread during the pandemic isolation at home. Those of us wearing glasses sometimes struggle with other puns. Technology is our constant companion these days, but misunderstandings can easily arise when we use terminology that can be understood in multiple ways. Sometimes when we're feeling exhausted, we just want to sit in our comfy chair and move things with our minds. Now that Halloween is over, we can look back and laugh. And even though we have to endure the after effects. Now, today is election day in the United States. So many of us are suffering from a hangover from the nonstop election campaign coverage south of the border. Since our economy is so intertwined with our southern neighbors, what happens there affects us here. We've been flooded with powerful evidence of the polarization within their society, within their presidential race, but also within our own Canadian society, for we are not immune. Many of us feel so tired of the conflict that we seek some sort of peace, some hope-filled place of healing and of restoration. Indeed, flooded by the tsunami of emotions unleashed by the stresses of this pandemic, we can easily become overwhelmed. Instead, we need to care for ourselves. Some of us think that the church is the panacea, the cure for all that ails us. All we have to do is lean on our faith and God will take it all away. Brene Brown observed, I went to the church thinking it would be like an epidural, that it would take the pain away. But the church isn't like an epidural, it's like a midwife. I thought faith would say, I'll take away the pain and discomfort. But what it ended up saying was, I will sit with you. However, learning we are not in control situates us correctly in the universe. If we are to feel at home in this world, we have to know we are not steering the ship. That teaching is found in the mystical writings of all religions. Mystics know they are being guided, and their reliance upon that guidance is precisely what allows their journey to happen. This wisdom from Richard Rohr seems to be underlined by Paul's second letter to the church in Corinth. Paul writes as if speaking for God, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." There is a curious dichotomy in these statements. When we feel like our lives are out of control, when we seek a numbing of the anguish and struggles of living, when we desperately lean on faith to rescue us, we are told we don't have control. Life will happen. Feelings will bubble vigorously within us. We will feel helpless and weak under the onslaught of the emotional freight we are bearing. We want control, but we don't have it, we're told. Then the Apostle Paul tells us that is when we admit our own weakness, that it is when we embrace our weakness, we will discover God's grace. There is, however, no actual conflict. What God is telling us is we need to accept our feelings and learn to live with those feelings, finding strength in weakness. Therefore, we have to work to do on our own behalf. God has given us the gift of intelligence to learn and to grow, to find the resources already provided for us to, as Brene Brown states, sit with it. Remember the escalation cycle we talked about during last week's Fireside chat that came from the book Constructive Wallowing, How to Beat Bad Feelings by Letting Yourself Have Them. It was written by Tina Gilbertson, who is a psychotherapist and author. When life happens, feelings are triggered. Then we feel like we shouldn't be feeling this way, that we need to put on a happy face and just persevere. In response, we stuff our feelings deep inside. Over time, those stuffed feelings pile up. We can either choose to take those stuffed feelings out on ourselves, leading to depression, anxiety, and a loss of vitality. Or on the other hand, we can choose to take those stuffed feelings out on others, leading to inappropriate behavior and further leading to feelings of remorse and a loss of self-respect. We may even find ourselves taking both routes at the same time. Meanwhile, life continues to happen, and we haven't given ourselves the time needed for healing. This is unhealthy and, in fact, unfaithful. However, the constructive wallowing cycle provides us with an alternative approach to our flood of emotions. When life happens, feelings are triggered. By experiencing them, we acknowledge our feelings and we don't ignore them and push them down. Once we fully live those feelings, we make better choices, we find relief, and our well-being is improved. In fact, dealing intentionally with our feelings gives us agency even when we feel weak inside. One way to think of our feelings is this: feelings are like children. You don't want them driving the car, but you shouldn't stuff them in the trunk either. By acknowledging our feelings, we place them in their proper seat in the car, so to speak. The goal is to realize that we are in competition with no one, that we should have no desire to play the game of being better than anyone. Instead, we are simply trying to be better than we were yesterday. Well, you might reflect, easy enough for you to say. You're not the one flooded with these emotions and finding so many of them piling up. It seems easy for you to tell us to deal with all those emotions, but how? Actually, that is exactly the direction I want to go this morning. I spent 2 years during 4 intensive weekends each year training in proven practices for dealing with our trauma in our emotional lives, or simply sitting with the piling up of emotions so many of us experience every day. The training I took was with a nonprofit organization called Capacitar International, which was created to teach methods of teaching trauma, healing, and promoting wellness worldwide. This is the logo for Capacitar. It utilizes imagery taken from the indigenous peoples from whom these practices have been harvested and then scientifically tested to see if they work or not. The name capacitar comes from South and Central America and means to awaken, to encourage, and to bring each other life. My training was conducted by Pat Kane. Now, Pat focused her doctoral work on body energy work utilized by Indigenous peoples from all over the world. Her thesis, which she completed over 38 years ago, took those Indigenous practices of trauma healing, scientifically testing them for their efficacy. She discovered those practices that actually worked, but at the same time, she didn't delve into any theory as to why they worked. After completing her PhD at the Union Institute and University in Cincinnati, Ohio, and teaching multicultural wellness education for a few years, Pat founded the nonprofit organization Capacitar International to train people around the world, like me, to teach others these practices for dealing with trauma emotions and how to live into wellness. To give you a broader picture of Pat's experience over the past decades, she has worked with survivors of the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan, with survivors of the Rwandan genocide, with survivors of the residential school system in Canada and the United States, with Palestinians surviving the occupation on the West Bank and in Gaza, and many, many other populations overwhelmed by emotions. The practice I want to share with you today is finger holds, which is taken from the indigenous peoples in Central America. Using finger holds is a simple way to work with emotions by holding each finger. The practice may be done for relaxation with music or used before going to sleep to release the problems of the day. This is actually my own personal practice each night. The practice may be done on oneself or on another person, but make sure you get permission from that person first, no matter how young. All ages can be taught how to practice finger holds. The practice is called finger holds because we will be holding our fingers one at a time with our opposing hand. The fingers are used as memory keys to signify the emotions with which you will be dealing. The thumb is the digit that many of us sucked when we were little. We did that for comfort. Therefore, the emotions we connect with the thumb are those needing comfort, emotions of grief, of pain, of sorrow. The index finger is the finger we use to point at someone, and I've lost my place, often to accuse or to threaten. Therefore, the emotions connected to our index finger are those arising out of feeling threatened, emotions of fear, panic, or terror. The middle finger is our rudest finger. I won't hold it too long. When we raise just that finger, we call it flipping the bird. As a result, the emotions connected to our middle finger are those of anger, rage, or resentment. The ring finger is less intuitive. However, when we wear a ring, if we are nervous, we absent-mindedly fiddle with our ring. Therefore, the ring finger represents these emotions of worry, anxiety, and preoccupation. Finally, our baby finger, being the smallest finger, is connected to emotions of low self-esteem, of insecurity, and of feeling abused. Now, I want to use the practice of finger holds with you as our prayer for today. Consider it a time to sit with our feelings embraced by God's grace. Now, for the next little while, it's going to look a little weird because my eyes are going to be closed, because that's what I tend to do when I am using finger holds. It gives me the space within which I can more closely focus on the emotions that I'm trying to live. So, remembering the emotions, and I'll guide you through it as I speak. Find a comfortable place to sit as you're listening to my voice. Maybe your feet are flat on the floor. Maybe your hands are resting on your thighs. Close your eyes if you wish, you don't have to. And as you close your eyes, breathe deeply. Breathe in and breathe out. And as you breathe in comfort and peace. Breathe out tension and anxiety. And as you gently and deeply breathe, notice how your body begins to relax. Notice how the muscles in your shoulders no longer hold themselves tightly. Notice how your breathing begins to slow, quiet. And as you breathe deeply, find yourself calming. Now take one hand and grasp the thumb of your opposing hand. Hold it fully within the palm of the grasping hand and continue to breathe deeply. And as you breathe, think about those emotions within you of sadness, of longing, of loneliness. And as you think about it, breathing deeply, think about the source of those emotions, from where they spring. And as you breathe in comfort. Breathe out your grief. Breathe in peace. Breathe out your loneliness. Breathe in companionship. Breathe out feelings of being alone. And as you breathe deeply, you will notice that your thumb is beginning to feel warmer. You may notice that you can feel your thumb pulsing within your hand. As you feel that, the blockages and the piling up of the emotions wash away as you breathe. Continue to breathe and feel the comfort of God's peace enveloping you, going through you, restoring you. Now gently let go of your thumb and grasp your index finger, once again holding it fully in the palm of your opposing hand. And as you hold it, continue to breathe deeply. This is the finger that reminds us of those emotions of fear and of terror. Breathe in peace. Breathe out your fear. Breathe in confidence. Breathe out your terror. And as you breathe, think about from where those emotions have risen. What is the source of those feelings? What events have led to them? And as you ponder that, continue to breathe deeply, allowing yourself to feel those emotions of fear and terror. Live them fully, and then let them go. And as you breathe deeply, notice that your finger is feeling warmer within your hand, and it is pulsing. Signs that you are living fully into your emotions and letting the piled up ones go. Now gently let go of that finger and grasp your middle finger, the rootest of fingers in our culture. And as you breathe deeply, breathe in peace. Breathe out anger. Breathe in calm. Breathe out rage. And as you breathe, think about those emotions of rage and anger. Think about the source from where those emotions spring. It's okay to feel rage and anger when you know what the source is and you live them fully. Continue to breathe as you breathe in the Spirit's peace and breathe out the fear, the rage and the anger that twist you up. And as you breathe, once again, you may notice the beating of the pulse in your finger and the warming of the skin. Signs that you are living fully into those emotions of anger and rage. And then, as you breathe, breathing them goodbye. Now gently let go and grab the ring finger in the palm of your opposing hand. And as you hold that finger, remember this is the finger that represents anxiety and worry, the hamster wheel of emotions that flood us and seem to distract us from all we feel is important. Breathe in calm and peace. Breathe out your worry, your tension. Breathe in the presence of the Prince of Peace and breathe out that which worries you. Think about the events that have led to those emotions bubbling up within you. Consider them, live them, relive them. And as you breathe deeply, breathe in the presence of the one who loves you and breathe out the worry and anxiety. Once again, you may feel your finger getting warmer and pulsing, all signs that you are paying attention to your emotions, living them fully and letting them go. And finally, grasp your baby finger, the smallest of all fingers within the palm of your hand. It may seem like it's lost because these are the emotions of lack of self-esteem, of smallness, of abuse. And as you breathe in, feel the loving embrace that God gives us all, each day, each moment. And breathe out your feelings of aloneness, of smallness, of being timid and weak. Breathe in God's strength and confidence. Breathe out your feelings of lack of adequacy. Breathe deeply and think about the source from where those emotions spring. And as you think about from where they have come, remember and live them, and then bid it farewell. Continue to breathe deeply, finding God's love and healing power flowing within you and around you, never leaving you alone. Now let go of your baby finger. Let your hands rest once more on your thighs. Continue to breathe deeply and notice how relaxed your body feels. Notice the tightness of the muscles is gone. Notice there is calm and peace and confidence resting within you. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Some of you may not open your eyes yet, and that is fine. Just let the words flow over you, through you, and perhaps don't even bother listening to them. But I want to say thank you to Terry Boyd, who takes these recordings of the Fireside chats and renders them to our YouTube channel for us to see later on. Thank you, Terry, for all that you do every single week as these are sent to you by Judy. Now, I'd like to leave you with a blessing. Go from this digital space. Leave your screen to gaze inward at your own self as treasure and as potential. The emotional waves that wash over you bless you with abundant life. As you feel, discover the blessings of grace in communion with God within. May the Spirit be your strength and your daring. May the risen Christ be your companion and your fellow traveler. And may you go in wellness. Amen. Until next week's Fireside Chat, stay safe and stay well. Goodbye.